Good morning. Welcome to the upper deck for Pinstripe Chronicles. I'm Chris, that's Lynn, and we are ready to talk about Yankee views and news, what's been going on this week, and what we expect to go on in the coming weeks, especially with the winter meetings approaching.
Yeah, the winter meetings are just around the corner, really. November went like a sneeze. So,
Yeah.
um,
Yes, we're the 4th through the 7th, which puts us at next weekend, right? Or something.
yep.
Like, I don't know, something like that. But yeah, so that's coming up. Basically, we want to talk about a number of different topics today, but I thought we'd start off with something that we kind of overlooked when it happened, but I want to revisit it, and that is the American League Manager of the Year. And the fact that Aaron Judge, that was a Freudian slip. Aaron Boone, my mistake, Judge, that Aaron Boone actually got some votes.
It boggles the mind when you think of other managers that should have been there in that top five.
Yeah.
And it also has to feel very embarrassing, the difference in the numbers when you get to Boone. Um, and so very telling, but not surprising at all. But I don't even know how he got there. You can't say it's um, because the Yankees made it to the ALCS, because these five aren't representative of all the teams that made it to the ALCS, right?
Right.
So why? We didn't even have 100 wins.
Yeah.
We had the most horrible July and August on record.
We limped into the playoffs.
Yeah.
The postseason.
Yes. And it was also in part because of the implosion of the teams beneath us.
Right.
If Boston hadn't had the season they had, who knows if we had, gotten there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a puzzlement.
It's a puzzle. Well, I want to know who would throw away their votes, actually. That I don't get that, but like this. But I mean, my take on the season, if I look at it with a big overview, is that Boone didn't know why they won when they won, and he didn't know why they were losing when they were losing. Therefore, he could not make the adjustments, did not make the adjustments. We saw at the end of the season the kind of adjustments he did try to make were juggling the lineup to the frustration of fans, probably players, certainly the broadcasters like Michael Kay and so on. Those rosters were just atrociously bad, even in the postseason.
Yeah, and it was almost like he was playing bingo with his choices.
Right.
Like rolling the cage, and whoever came out, they were in the lineup.
Yep.
And so it seemed like if anything he was doing was to appease either the media or the fans, he would have figured out the formula of what we're screaming about and stick to it.
Right. I mean, he would have played Peraza, for example, who sat the bench throughout the postseason, pretty much throughout September.
Right.
I mean, that was a big complaint that fans had, and this is something we can revisit later in the show, the Yankees don't show commitment to their young players.
That's absolutely right. And one of the big battle cries on Twitter, often led by me, was, why aren't you playing chess with third base? You're putting puzzles together inning by inning, and you're as well as the lineup. And so why aren't you at least taking those two not so great performers, either on especially at the box,
right,
flip them? Like, I don't understand. He had 2 Gold Glove third basemen,
right,
And we had Kiner Falefa, who was really underperforming despite these phantom stats that Aaron Boone seems to have,
Exactly.
being, one of the best, statistically one of the best shortstops in the game.
Yeah.
I still haven't seen the numbers on that.
No.
I think, like Donald said it on the show on Thursday, we see the same stats they do. What the hell is he talking about?
I got it. Yeah, and we can transition right into a little discussion about what Jack Curry said on the Yankees hot stove this week. He said, "I expect IKF to be the starting shortstop next season. The Yankees love his work ethic and defense and ability to make contact. I've heard they are discussing a multi-year extension with him." I mean,
Yeah,
this to me, this slap in the face to fans.
100%. And they knew it was already an unpopular decision.
Right.
And also a predictor of the same old for Peraza.
Yep.
And we'll talk about Peraza and Volpe more in depth in a minute.
Yeah.
But to double down on the ridiculousness,
I know,
was just an atrocity. And but I just wanted to bring FJG into the conversation. Thanks for joining. He said that Brandon Hyde should have been manager of the year. What do you think, Chris?
I'm looking at Brandon Hyde, and I am not familiar. I agree, but I'm not familiar with him personally, except in general as the Orioles manager. But certainly, he got the second most votes, although he wasn't even close to Francona in that regard. But
right.
Yeah, definitely deserved the consideration that he got.
Right. And I'm assuming in part it was because of how that Oriole team just surprised everybody.
Absolutely.
This season.
Yeah.
From what we've been accustomed to in terms of bottom of the division, no one to really worry about, to really being, up there and with that chance for the wild card.
Yeah, absolutely.
A little bit of a Cinderella story without the, the happy ending.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I just wanted to finish up with Curry in the hot stove. He said about Justin Verlander, some team will give a Scherzer type deal. I'm not sure the Yankees are interested. They really like Cole, Sevy, Cortez, and Montas.
So
let's just say his name properly. Montas.
Yeah, Montas. I have trouble as well.
Yeah.
I'm with him on the first three. I'm not convinced about Montas. I found him to be lacking some consistency, and I wasn't all that impressed. I think he had a lot of buzz coming in, and it wasn't a mistake bringing him over, but and Tyone's not in the conversation.
Right. And Tyone had a solid year. I mean, he's a solid number 4 or 5, no doubt about it.
Agreed.
I mean, so in a word, between what we've heard from Hal and Cashman about IKF, and then the possibility of bringing in Verlander, hear these comments. In other words, whether we sign Judge or we don't sign Judge, expect more of the same. That's what this signals to me.
Sounds really familiar.
Yeah.
And we all know who Justin Verlander is. But with the age factor, and he had a great comeback. He had a tremendous comeback.
He did.
And, is it worth the gamble to, bring him here thinking that we'll get another year out of him?
Yeah.
That doesn't really solve the problem, does it? When there's plenty of other younger arms that are sound prospects to be thinking about. I don't know. I know we want the name,
Right.
Future Hall of Famer, etc. And so, but I don't know. When you think about the money he's going to take,
Yeah.
I'm not so sure that that's the way to spend it.
Not sold, right?
No.
I've been a Verlander fan because I'm from the Midwest. Watched him when he was with Detroit, and it right. Anyway, watched him for years be great elsewhere. Couldn't wait for him to be a Yankee, but I have to agree with you. I think that this is not the time in his career when you want Verlander, especially when you have talent like Cole. Obviously, we've got a number one. We've got our ace. We've got number two. We've got Sevy. We've got Cortez. They let them fight it out for the number two spot. Um, and beyond that, I mean, the Yankees are either going to go out and get a starting pitcher, or what's wrong with Herman? Possibly Mike King maybe becomes a starter. I don't know. What do you think?
I think that, first of all, I'd be very surprised were the Yankees to make an offer to Verlander that it wouldn't become like a boiling kettle.
Yeah.
Because, why wouldn't his team want to keep him? And let him retire with them. So, and I don't see that, like, why would they make that move knowing that they'd really have to buck up beyond any offer they put in the ring, when they're already claiming that they'll be the last offer for Judge.
Right.
I don't know if that's hubris or a promise.
Yeah. You're talking about the Astros.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Yeah. I
being the last offer for Judge. Yeah, I didn't hear that. That actually, I must have missed that. That kind of astonishes me. Just them saying that. And, we can transition that right into the Judge sweepstakes, as we're calling it. What do we expect? What are we seeing already? Judge apparently has the offer from the Yankees. Feinsand has said judges believed to be seeking a deal at least 8 years with an AAV exceeding $40 million.
Well, and I think it's going to grow from there. But I just want to clarify real quick that what I was saying about Verlander was in the, and maybe I missed something, is what I wanted to say. Maybe Houston has made him an offer. Yeah. And I'm just not aware of it. I was talking from the Yankees end. That were they to make an offer, it's going to get ugly fast, and would they go there knowing what they're going to have to spend on Judge? But
I'm with you, though. I think Verlander retires an Astro. Why would he want to go to the Yankees for 1 year, like a rental? It seems like you would just want to be one thing. That seems more logical to me.
Right.
I was thinking. Exactly.
That's the point, is, go in and with the team you won a World Series with.
Exactly.
Why would the Yankees get him to sway in any other direction on that?
Right.
But I interrupted Chris, so I'm sorry.
Oh, that's all right. I was just moving the conversation to the Judge sweepstakes.
Right.
And, Rosenthal, I was listening this morning to R2C2, which I know a lot of you listen to. And Rosenthal said that the only clear thing he can predict about the Judge sweepstakes is that he'll probably get at least $300 million. Where he'll go, nobody knows.
Nobody knows. So Spencer is joining us from the parking lot of ShopRite. That's commitment.
Spencer!
I hope there's a can sale going on for you there. Happy to have you as always. So this leads us to the fact that he was out in San Francisco this week, right? And so that's really the great debate of the moment. And we went into it in depth with the guys on Thanksgiving. So of course he's going to listen. to any team that invites him. And I don't think San Francisco is going to be the only one. They're certainly not the only one with big wallets. Um, and the fact that they're, you know, a young team looking to really build, um, that's great for them. That's a great get for them. But, you know, would that be enough for Judge, in terms of play
Right.
and buzz around that team? Um, I still say that if Hal is telling the truth, can't even say that without laughing.
No.
But
I shake my head at you.
if he is really telling the truth and is committed to being the last offer, then all's good. Otherwise, it puts Judge in the position of less conflict between business and, Yankee legacy and his feelings for, you know, his career so far. Um, so I'm not ruling out that he's not going to be swayed away.
Right.
And the longer we don't know what that feeling's going to be, perhaps Hal's just sitting and waiting to see what he's dealing with.
Right.
And the Giants might very well do things the right way and keep their numbers to themselves,
Right.
unlike Cashman.
Which that brings me to another point that Rosenthal made in the C2 interview, and that is that respect thing, that the Yankees didn't respect Judge's privacy, so to speak, with the negotiations. He did not like that the first offer was made public, and Rosenthal and Cece chimed in as well and said they believe that the longer this drags out, the less chance of him signing with the Yankees. What do you think of that?
Well, Elliot says, although there is a Freudian typo there.
Yeah, there is.
I really don't think anyone knows what George is looking for. The only thing I worry about is a team that makes him an offer that blows away the Yankees. So,
Right.
Of the same mind there. How high will Hal go? And Donald, I think it was on Thursday, said, you know, don't forget about the Dodgers.
Right.
And you know, it would still put Judge in his home state, which was
Right.
the, you know, what everyone's saying about the real pull there, because
Yeah.
he grew up in the Bay Area. So it's a private, you know, it's a 40-minute private jet ride away.
Yeah.
And obviously that's a championship team. That would be worthy of Judge.
Right.
So that is a worry, Elliot, because we all have our history that, you know, will always cause stress.
And, you know, speaking of history, the Dodgers and the Giants both have a venerable history. It's not like the Yankees are the only team, although they market themselves as if they are, that has a history and where players feel, you know, proud and are honored by those franchises. I mean, look at the many venerable Dodgers. I mean, there may not be Monument Park at these places, but certainly there have been many greats who have gone through both the Giants and Dodgers organizations. So, I mean, Judge, all things, you know, weighing everything out, if it's not as though they're chump organizations, is what I'm hitting at.
Oh no, and until recently, especially the Giants, you know,
right.
Especially, you know, and it's always good to keep reminding about that.
Exactly.
They just happen to find themselves in a position where they're young again.
Yeah.
And so they need to really get some senior, you know, some veterans that can really teach and mold. And I mean, Judge would be the perfect guy for that.
Absolutely.
But I don't know if that's what Judge would be invested in after the year he had, and how far he has to go to do even more. And FG is asking, do you think Judge will make a decision during the winter meetings?
I think it's going to be sooner rather than later, because Judge strikes me as a no nonsense type of guy. I don't see it stretching out to spring training.
Okay, if it were to stretch out to spring training, in other words, it would be because of people duking it out and not giving him a point of easy decision, or a point of where where he should land.
Right.
So, and it, like I kind of said a minute ago, for all we know, the Giants have countered and gone beyond what the Yankees allegedly offered, which the rumor is 337 million over 8. For all we know, the paper slid across the table with a higher figure.
Yeah.
And the Giants are just holding their cards to their vest.
Right.
We also don't know if there's been discussions elsewhere. I think San Francisco was more blatant because the fact that he was traveling there and his hometown, blah blah blah, doesn't mean that on the same trip, the Dodgers didn't come down and meet him in San Francisco, for example.
Oh, absolutely.
And any other team reaching out and having phone discussions.
Right.
So I mean, December too soon? I don't know. I guess part of it has to do with how many calls he gets and how close those calls are to each other.
That's true. Well, and Kevin Kiernan, who writes for Ball 9, he wrote an article about Josh Allen and Aaron Judge and kind of comparing their situations. But one of the things that he said in there was he was warning the Yankees about to beware of the Dodgers because he says too often the Yankees feel they are the only fish in the pond, and that arrogant assessment put them in this position in the first place.
Yes, and we know that looking at the trajectory of the offers that have been given and accepted by Judge since he joined. And the Yankees have made their own bed of nails.
Right.
And so now they got to either lie in it or, order a new mattress and pay the man what he wants.
Yep.
Spencer agrees with you, by the way, Chris. He thinks that a deal is going to be made before Christmas.
Yeah, Judge just strikes me as a very decisive, a person who takes charge of his life and makes. I don't think he's going to get more than a handful, 2 or 3 offers that are even in that air, those realms of elite players.
Mm-hmm.
But before we roll, before we end up today, I just wanted to mention the Hall of Fame. The lists of candidates came out, and there were some Yankees that are on the list. And among returning candidates, there's Alex Rodriguez, of course. Andy Pettitte is also on this list, and we know what they have in common. What are your thoughts about perhaps those two getting their just due?
I think that there's an argument for both.
Right.
Because if it applies to one guy, one worthy man, it should apply to the others. And so I think a precedent has been set. And certainly for Pettitte, I would say, had he not had that smear, it would have been a given. I think, Pettitte, part of the core 4, I think he'd be worthy of that. And A-Rod the same. A-Rod was, regardless of how we feel about him, not just because of the steroids, but his other stuff, just in general. Look at his numbers, and did we win the World Series without him? And so, and his career overall is Hall of Fame stuff.
Right.
I mean, he was the Derek Jeter type until he came and played with Derek Jeter.
That's right.
So I'd be okay with that. I think it's time. I think it's time to move past that more readily than Look, we have Poppy in the Hall of Fame.
Right.
Manny Ramirez is up. Not that it's the same situation, but
Right.
So my long-winded answer is yes.
Yes, and briefly, Hall of Fame first timers, a couple Yankees on this list. Carlos Beltran. Any surprise there? And what do you think fans would make of the cheating?
So that's where I'm still feeling very staunch about. That record is tainted in a different, more ethical way, unethical way, I think. Yeah. Although it could be argued the similarities with steroids. I'd have a hard time with that.
Right.
Chris, it looks like Clemens is getting a second chance.
Yeah.
Contemporary ballot.
On the contemporary era ballot. Yeah. And Clemens, Schilling, Bonds. Bonds, I think, should be in, hands down. Schilling, I think, is objectionable, but I won't go into my reasoning on that. He's a Red Sox, and that's enough. Clemens, I think you've got to make the argument that he belongs in if you're going to let Bonds in. But what surprised me, another first-timer, was Jacoby Ellsbury on the list.
How'd they find him?
That's so random, right? Is that random?
Beyond random. I do not get that.
That one shocked me. I guess that, it's like, I don't know what he's being recognized for, although they said it was, mostly his Boston. That would have to be his Boston. But
okay.
Yeah. Jacoby Ellsbury. I hadn't heard that name, and I had to dust that off, man.
Yeah.
All right. So we got to end up here with our trivia question.
Actually,
unless you want to jump in on the Jacoby Ellsbury.
No, I'm so over him. He's so 5 years ago. I do, Chris, want to make sure that you take a minute to talk about Olivia Pichardo, though.
I forgot about Olivia. Yep, you're right, I did. Olivia Pichardo, we both Lynn and I independently discovered this week because, of course, we're keeping our eyes out for women in sports. But she becomes the first woman to make a Division I baseball roster at Brown University. Yeah.
And so college ball is setting down the gauntlet here.
Yep.
And I would hope paving the way for more of this beyond it. College will come first, right. And may this be the sign of more and more of that.
Absolutely.
But in her lifetime, in this young lady's lifetime, will she see a transition, how subtle and slow it might be, to a major league level of play?
Right.
Yes. When are they going to have a major league of their own?
Yeah, absolutely. And the amazing thing about this young lady is she's a walk-on.
She's a what?
A walk-on.
Oh.
A utility player who walked on. Look her up. You won't be sorry. She's a really quite an impressive player, regardless of gender.
That's right. And that's it. Regardless of gender. Women are just as worthy to play the game of baseball and not be relegated to softball only.
Absolutely.
There's no physical reason. There's no threat to the male gender in the game. We're not talking about integrating at the moment male and female in professional ball, in major league ball. We're talking about, and it's no different than the NBA, for crying out loud. Right. Why can't we?
Yeah.
And women, by the way, and this is my shout out and a little bit of a teaser. Women, by the way, saved the game of baseball during the World Wars, when all of the players got called to action. And we know it from the movie, but it's truth that was the call to women to give that form of entertainment, and the first women's professional baseball league was formed. And so we plan to highlight women in baseball historically, because this isn't a new concept.
No,
it's already happened,
yeah,
but it happened because of men.
right.
This time around, it would be happening because of women, and they're worthy of it, and they should
Yeah,
have the opportunity.
absolutely.
So if you're not already following at AAGPBL, the American Association of Girls Professional Baseball League, on Twitter, you should. And I'm going to put it in the comments when we end for anyone watching this afterward. They're a great follow, and you'll learn a lot about the history of
Okay,
women's
wow.
baseball. Huh?
I did not even know about that.
Yeah. And
That's great.
and it's a great organization with the original women from those leagues, some of them still living and very actively involved. It's a really good place to a really good account to follow, and learn something, learn about women's worth. Chris and I always remind people that this is the only women's only Yankees broadcast at the moment.
That's right.
And so, this is part of the reason why women know the sport, have passion for the sport, and are physically able to play the sport. So we'll be talking about that more during this off season. But yes, and also look up the article on Olivia Pichardo, Pichardo, because may there be more Olivias to come.
Yes.
So trivia question of the week.
Give it to us.
Thanks to our trivia question of the week guru, Spencer.
Yay, Spencer!
So here it is. For its 2009 inaugural season, the new Yankees played 2 exhibition games in the new Yankee Stadium prior to opening day. So 2 exhibition games in 2009 when the new stadium opened. What team did they play, and who was that team's manager?
Ah.
Not going back all that far.
That's not ancient history, and yet.
And if you don't get the answer, I can guarantee you'll smack yourself on the head. So that's
my favorite activity outside of reading about the Yankees.
Yeah, something else like, oh, yeah. So anyway.
All right. Well, thank you for that, Spencer and Lynn. You guys you get to work on that one. Let us know what you think. Don't forget to comment, like, subscribe. Check us out on Twitter, as well as on YouTube, as well as on Facebook.
And thank you to all of you in our comments who added so much to the show.
Absolutely.
We're so grateful to have you co-hosting with us. And just remember, every week you'll all always have a reserved seat with Chris and me on the upper deck. Go Yankees!
Go Yankees!